Am I the a-hole for leaving a dinner early after my friends made a joke about me? Ooh. I'm 23 female and I went out for dinner with my 4 friends last weekend. We've all known each other for a while, so we were pretty comfortable making fun of each other. At some point, they started talking about how everyone in the group has changed since college. It was mostly harmless until one of them said I was basically the backup friend of the group because I'm always available when everyone else is busy. Everyone laughed, including me at first, because I didn't want to make it awkward. Then another friend said she's not even offended because she knows it's true. They started bringing up random times when I'd been left out of plans and joked that I was basically the person they called when someone canceled. I laughed it off at the table, but honestly, it really got to me. I ended up making an excuse that I wasn't feeling well and left early. Later that night, one of them texted me asking why I was being weird. I told her that the jokes actually hurt my feelings, especially because some of what they were joking about was true. She said I was taking a joke way too seriously and nobody actually thinks I'm a backup friend. I told her that if that's true, they probably shouldn't joke about something I know I'm insecure about. She said she didn't even know I was insecure about it, and now everyone is apparently annoyed that I made the whole dinner awkward. I haven't talked to them much since. Part of me thinks I should have just laughed it off because they weren't trying to hurt me, but another part of me feels stupid for pretending I was fine when I wasn't. Okay, before we get to the PS. This is really rough. Certainly not the a-hole. She's certainly not the a-hole. This is actually something that I was contending with somewhat, even just this weekend, about being the person that tries to like make myself available and like bend over backwards to do things with other people, and feeling sometimes like I get left out of things if I'm not the person making the plan. And having your friends straight up say that they call you when people cancel because you're always available is really hurtful, but also really telling, because it means that what you fear is true, really is true. They really do think of you as the backup friend. And it's really frustrating and painful when you go out of your way to try and make things work for people, and instead of appreciating the effort that you go through, they just take it as granted that like, that's just how you are. And like, it's very disrespectful of your commitment and your effort and your attempts and willingness to try and make things work with people when they just basically are like, well, we can always count on you. It's actually really messed up. And I actually think that she's totally right for ditching this group. Should she have talked about it at the time? Yeah, probably. Probably it would have been nice to say that, well, not nice. It probably would have been good for her to have said it. But the fact that they're framing it as they're angry that she made things awkward when they were being mean to her is very telling about the way that they view social interactions and how they all center it on themselves. And like, you made me uncomfortable because you were uncomfortable is not the like sick defense that you think it is. So yeah, like this actually kind of hits close to home. Definitely not the a-hole, but like the situation is like extremely recognizable. Being the person who's always making time for others is laudable. Punching down on that is so yeah, exactly. Even without the punching down, just the fact of it, just the fact that that's true, that they do like think of you as the backup friend. And then like when they say like, see, she's not even defending herself because she knows it's true, is like, so it's like, I just got like the biggest ick from this story. Your friends are huge assholes. They're really not good friends is actually what it means. Okay. P.S. I read all your comments and I went to thank each of you for bringing your positivity and friendly comments. I am not friends with them anymore, and I will rebuild my life from now on with a focus on my mental health. Much love to everyone. That's crazy. Them basically pointing out the times they've deliberately excluded you is not a joke. Real friends at least ask. Yes. Yeah, exactly. I had a friend culture in middle school of constant teasing and it sucked. I don't recommend it. Yeah, that too. We were mean to you repeatedly until you left. You really made things awkward. You hear how that sounds, right? Exactly. Man, what a rough one. Holy, Not the a-hole. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you offend a friend with something that you intended as a harmless joke, you apologize. You can mention that you didn't mean any harm, but in the context of I misjudged it and I'm sorry, not I was joking, so your hurt feelings are invalid. Exactly. They think only inviting you to something to do when someone else cancels and have so little respect for you that they think it's okay to joke about it. They aren't your friends, not the a-hole. If they're able to make that joke with no real punchline other than the truth, the joke isn't really about the absurdity of the situation, but on her. Yes, exactly. This is like a really cruel story. Holy crap. This is one where I totally agree with Reddit that they're saying dump them. So Reddit definitely has a tendency to go extreme of like dump them, break up, get a divorce, hit the gym, call a lawyer. But like in this situation, no, it's over. Would I be the a-hole for not wanting to give my room to my mother-in-law if she moves in with us? I and my husband bought our first home last year. It was a huge accomplishment, and our main drive for doing it was that we had been helping on and off through the years his nieces and nephews who have been in hard situations. We ourselves have 2 special needs kids and both work full time. We are spread thin through helping everyone else, our kids, and work. We barely have time for our own self-care, and we do not like to ask for help since we have always been the helpers and can make it work. A few months ago, it became obvious we both could not keep waking up each night, every night, to tend to our kids who are up frequently throughout the night. We decided that we would have separate rooms so that each of us could take turns being on duty for our kids and have our own space to unwind after long days. Recently, my mother-in-law has come on hard times and has hinted at moving in with us after our last niece moved out. She never seemed serious until today. We talked it out and decided to make the adjustments needed so she could stay with us. When we approached her with it, she seemed good with the idea and on board. The next time we saw her, she asked what room she would be in. I pointed it out to her and her face dropped. She said her bed would not fit in that room and seemed upset that we would give her a smaller room. The room is the 3rd biggest. Her argument was her bed would not fit as it is a queen. I have told her that it would fit. Our niece had a full-size bed and there was still a lot of room around the bed, even move up to a queen or king. The conversation has come up in the past and she always asks about the room I am in. My room is not only my sanctuary, but also my office since I work from home and have a high demand job. I utilize the space to work as both. So I do not need 2 rooms. Would I be the a-hole for refusing to give up my space when I have been trying to support others for years, or is it me being overly sensitive? Not the a-hole at all. This is a different direction than I expected this story to go in. I expected you were just going to flat out say that she wouldn't be able to move in with you, which to be honest is also valid. Beggars can't be choosers. If you are expecting to move in with family members and they say this is the space we can provide you, you take that or you leave that. You don't say, oh, but I want this other room that you're like, no. And no, full stop. But especially when it's 2 full-time working parents with special needs kids, you don't get to have your extra desires. You can move off of a queen size bed if it won't fit, or you can make it work. No, you don't get to move into someone else's house and then take the room that you want in that house. Full stop. Full stop. There is no question about this. The fact that they're taking her in at all is probably a bad idea, to be honest. They probably need their own time and space and they deserve it. My God, the absolute gall of this boomer mother to be demanding that she have a bigger room in the house that she's moving into. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm actually so triggered by this. Holy crap. Her room, her space, mother's a narcissist. They're willing to give her help. Take it or leave it. Exactly. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Like, that's not how that works. It's just full on. The absolute gall of just like hinting that you're going to move in with your son and daughter-in-law because you've mismanaged your finances and that's just how it is already insane. Like they didn't offer. You pressured them into letting you move in. That's actually crazy. And then to have the gall to complain about it. Wow. No wonder. Not the a-hole by a long shot. You're doing her a favor. Mother-in-law can either put up with what you have available or move somewhere else. Exactly. I just wonder if you truly think you are the a-hole for not wanting to give up your bedroom and your house for your mother-in-law. First, that's nice that you've been kind to others in need, but but now it would seem others expect it and you're getting a little resentful for being a giver. So just stop giving so much. That's okay. Yes. Yeah. Mother can take or leave the room. Yep. Am I the a-hole for not getting my daughter-in-law coffee because she hates tea? This feels really stupid and I need to know if I am the problem here or not. My son seems to think I'm the problem. My daughter-in-law loves coffee. She's the type of person that will go get coffee every morning. It is not uncommon that if she goes out to get coffee, she will pick up coffee for the other people as well. The issue here is she will never get me tea or any tea lattes. As she puts it, it is leaf water and she doesn't want to waste her money on it. I am asking for her to get a $5 thing of tea if she is already picking up everyone $8 fancy coffees. I'm asking for tea latte or an iced tea latte and I literally can't make at the time. So she comes back with everyone's drink but mine. It's really frustrating on a trip because I will be driving most of the time. She takes everyone's orders and goes in while I'm either getting gas or snacks for the trip and will come back out with any caffeine. Then I have to go into the shop and get my drink. Okay, we'll continue reading this in just a second. But like, okay, your daughter-in-law is kind of being an asshole. Like straight up, she's just not doing what you're asking. And saying like, I don't respect your choice, so I'm not going to do it. So I feel like she's already off on a bad foot. Now, maybe they're like poisoning the well a little bit, but I feel like it's going to be turnabout's fair play if you've been asking and they're not getting it for you, especially when you're driving. Like, come on. Don't be a jerk. Sheesh. Hates tea. Is she Ted Lasso? I mean, I hate tea also, but I already dislike the daughter-in-law. Exactly. There have been so many times she asked in the chat if anyone wants something at Starbucks. I tell her what I want, and then she comes back with everyone's drink but mine. Talking to her doesn't help. She just claims I can make it at home. To the issue, I was going over to babysit the grandkids for my son and daughter, so 4 adults. I sent a text saying I was stopping at Starbucks and asked if they wanted anything. The exact same thing she does. They gave me their orders, and I decided that I wouldn't get my daughter-in-law's drink to make a point, basically. I got to where everyone was and gave everyone their drinks beside my daughter-in-law. She was pissed and I pointed out that this is the same thing she does for me all the time. She told me it wasn't the same and I can make tea at home. I told her to make her coffee at home. The pot is right there. We got into a fight and my son told me to apologize and get her a drink. I told him no, and I'm tired of this. I've spoken to them multiple times, and if she doesn't change what she does, I will never get her a drink when I get drinks for others. They left, but after babysitting, I'm still hearing about it. I need your opinion. Yeah, easy, not the a-hole. Is it confrontational? Yes, but you're just giving back the same energy that's been given to you multiple times. Now, did you explicitly tell them that you find it very hurtful and frustrating and annoying? I don't know. Maybe you didn't, and you should have. You should say that. But it's also obviously jerk behavior to exclude somebody who's asking you to get something while you're getting stuff for everyone else because you just don't respect what they're getting. And it's not a question of it being like unethical or illegal. You know, it's not. It's so ridiculous. Is it petty? Yes. But it's turnabout's fair play and the stakes are so low. You know, if you can't take it, don't dish it. You know what I mean? Turnabout's fair play. Sorry, ma'am. Okay, let's go back to the top. Okay, I got my answer. I'm going to send this to my son and tell him we need to talk ASAP. My son got back to me and told me we will talk in a bit. Just got off the phone with my daughter-in-law and son. Yes, they have seen the post. I sent it to them. Daughter-in-law apologized, and this issue has nothing to do with me. I thought she just hated me, but this is a deal with her own mother. They have a bad relationship, and when they married, they didn't wish for that type of relationship to happen again with me. I also didn't help that her sister has a horrible mother-in-law, so she thought she needed to be distant and cold from the start. So yes, she was being rude on purpose. This kind of opened her eyes that she was acting like her mother acts. My son also apologized and realized that he went too far in the direction of supporting your spouse. He admits that he did the easy thing because we don't live together. I informed them that I won't put up with being disrespected anymore, and hopefully nothing backtracks. We seem good now, but I have a feeling more talks will happen. Anyway, thank you, Reddit. That's very interesting. I think it's good. I think it's good that they are actually talking about this and examining the reasons for the actions. It's not a good reason. It's a actively bad reason to be disrespectful to somebody because you're like, worried that they'll be disrespectful to you. or something. I don't know. But at least they're examining their own biases and choices and realizing that they've made a mistake. So like, that's a good ending. Not the a-hole. If she's asking for orders and getting everyone but yours, it's incredibly rude. You simply matched her actions. I'm guessing the other issues are at play too, but solely for this, not the a-hole. If someone doesn't like to be treated the same way they treat you, you can always be confident you are not the a-hole. Also a good rule of thumb. Not the a-hole. How old is your daughter-in-law? It sounds like she's just outright disrespecting you for no apparent reason. From what is available in the post, I'm surprised your child hasn't said anything. That's the other thing that this brought up, was talking about how he realized that he supported his spouse basically because he has to live with her, and he realizes that that was wrong. I think that's good introspection. We've actually talked about this several times on this channel, that I am not a person that thinks it's healthy to just say like, no matter what you have, like you can't say that your spouse is ever wrong. I think that that's a really messed up way to live, and that's not healthy for communication. And it really encourages people to have bad behavior and not reflect on themselves, even though I understand the temptation, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that there was some introspection, and hopefully this leads to a good conclusion. Yes, that's right. Daughter-in-law broke Zeus's law. Yes. I do love that Zeus's law is becoming a like relevant phrase in modern vernacular again because of the movie. I find that extremely funny. Extremely funny. Okay, pretty easy, not the a-hole. If you're enjoying this content, I would really appreciate it if you could drop a like or subscribe and let me know in the comments what you're enjoying about this, or if you have any takes that disagree with mine. Okay, thanks. Back to the video. Am I the a-hole? Kid with special needs keeps bothering me. I've spoken to the mom and she won't do anything about it. Loaded title, I'll say that. So I'm on a packaged holiday. Hotel is all you can eat. There's one family here, oldest kid has some type of special needs, but for the past few days, he keeps putting his hands down the back of his shorts, rooting around, and then licking his fingers. Ugh. Oh, okay. Parents are pretty much letting him do his thing. He keeps helping himself to the food without tongs and talks to everyone, tries to give people hugs and all that. I spoke to staff. They said they'll speak to him and even got someone to dish his food for him if needed. He tried talking to me and I made sure to keep my distance, and he tried hugging me and I stepped back. I spoke to the parents and they said I feel really uncomfortable with him near me and my family, and apologized for it. Anyway, we booked a trip and the family is on our coach. This kid tried sitting next to me and I refused. The mom called me rude and I very politely and quietly said to her that I don't want to sit next to him due to his hygiene issues. She shouted at me, and when he's disabled, he can't help it. So I raised my voice and said, I don't want to sit next to someone who keeps playing with their bum and licking their fingers. I don't want shitty fingers near me. And now apparently she's the victim. The mom is now telling her son to bother me and the hotel won't do anything. Wow, that last line is especially bad. This is, I mean, right off the bat, not the a-hole. Your own personal boundaries and especially personal hygiene are ultimately the only reasons you need to not want to interact with somebody. It is obviously complicated if there are special needs involved, and it's very difficult. There aren't always good answers or solutions to things like that, unfortunately. When it comes to hygiene of things with food and things like that, it is completely reasonable to like, even, it doesn't really matter about the special needs aspect when it comes to like contaminating food. That's just a normal part of shared eating. It's very clear to me that this is something that these parents have been struggling with for a long time, and I have a lot of sympathy for them and empathy for them. It's very difficult. People have to do their best. However, even if you can't change the behavior, that doesn't mean that you should expect other people to have their boundaries and space violated. And that is one of the very difficult realities of situations like this, is that you can try as hard as you can, and sometimes there isn't a beautiful Hallmark movie breakthrough, but that doesn't mean that other people are wrong for their own personal boundaries. And there was definitely similar situations when I was growing up where there was a boy who was also special needs, and he was touching girls inappropriately, and the school wouldn't do anything about it. And that is wrong. You know, I'm not saying anything like, you know, we need to get police involved or something like that, but like those girls deserve to have their bodily autonomy respected, and it doesn't matter why it was happening. It shouldn't be happening. So like the fact that this is happening with adults is like an adult is going to stand their ground and just say no. And like this person's gonna have to deal with that one way or another. You know what I mean? At some point, even people with severe mental setbacks will have to learn boundaries. You're not sure if the kid really can't process that literally, but otherwise, that's exactly the thing. Is like, I feel a lot of sympathy for the situation, but again, like you just don't have license to do that and take people's space and take people's health and their, you know, very unfortunate. And it's very wrong because it sounds like this person was as respectful as they could be, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry, I don't want to sit next to you. I don't want to speak to you. The full stop. You don't need another reason than that. You know what I mean? And the fact that the parents couldn't handle this, and that's what I was going to say. The last part where the mom is telling the son to bother me, like that is so harmful. It is so harmful, both for that boy and also like in terms of him learning boundaries, but also in terms of like any kind of like learning the lessons or discipline or anything like that. And it's just so, it's like actually so actively upsetting. Yeah, not the a-hole. That's effing disgusting. Not the a-hole. This kid's, it's true. This kid probably doesn't know any better, but that doesn't excuse the parents from just letting it happen. It's a serious hygiene issue in their special needs clothes that are essentially a one-piece suit to prevent exactly this problem. Yep. I say this as a disabled person. That's nasty. Special needs moms can be special. Yeah. It happens pretty frequently from my understanding with parents that they just like can't get outside of their own bubble of experience. You know what I mean? Very unfortunate. Not the a-hole. I work in disability care, and this is something you're specifically told to redirect them out of. Anyone can learn this, isn't it okay? It's the parents who need to educate their child, or at the very least, put them in something where he cannot reach those parts. You actually did the right thing by providing proper social consequences for his actions. Yep. Again, yeah. And like this person did everything perfectly properly by like saying no, and by then like talking to people who are in charge of the health situations. Like that is the softest consequence you can get. You know what I mean? Like it is entirely plausible that this happens to the wrong person and they get punched. You know what I mean? Like somebody, the OP here by being verbal and direct and not even being insulting, just establishing a clear boundary is fantastic. And then it was pushed and then they were direct. You know what I mean? Like there can be way worse consequences. Am I the a-hole for telling my 12-year-old daughter she did nothing wrong by inviting another friend when the first friend didn't respond? Boy, I already feel like I have the answer here. You're not wrong. If somebody's failing to coordinate with you, move on to somebody who's willing to respect your time. Yesterday, I told my 12-year-old daughter I'd be happy to take her and a friend to a water park today. She had a free bring a friend pass, and she initially invited friend A. Around 9 p.m., A told my daughter she couldn't go after all. I told my daughter that if she wanted to invite someone else, that was fine. My daughter texted friend B to see if she wanted to go. When B didn't respond after about 10 minutes, my daughter tried calling her. Still no response. After 20 minutes after the original text, she invited friend C. C immediately said yes, and so the plans were set. At about 10:30 p.m., B finally responded saying she wanted to go. My daughter told her sorry, but someone else had already taken the spot. B replied, okay, no problem. My daughter said that she was sorry and she had hoped they could hang out soon. They also spoke by phone, and my daughter explained that the spot was already taken. Okay, sounds like B's parents got upset about this, not child B. This morning, B's mother called asking when she could drop off B for the water park and saying how excited B was. We explained that another friend was now going. B's mother became upset with my daughter and with us. She said that once my daughter invited B, she should have waited for B to respond before inviting anyone else. We explained that this was a last-minute plan for the following morning, and my daughter tried texting and calling B before moving on to another friend. I also apologized for any miscommunication and said it was probably partly my fault because I had encouraged my daughter to get her plan settled before going to bed. B's mother still feels that my daughter, wife, and I were rude and thoughtless. I showed her the text from the night before, including B's acknowledgement that the spot had already been taken, and replying, okay, no problem. But she still believes we should have indefinitely waited for B to respond. I disagree. My view is that the last minute invitation like this, you can ask someone, give them a reasonable opportunity to respond, and then move on if you don't hear back. If I had an extra ticket to a baseball game the next morning, for example, I'd do the same thing. For what it's worth, I couldn't simply take both girls. I had only one extra seat in the car because I was also dropping my son off and another child at camp in the morning. If I had room, I would have happily taken them both and paid for the extra ticket. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter she did nothing wrong by moving on and inviting another friend? No. Your daughter's friend also seems like she's a totally reasonable young girl, and your daughter's friend's parents are incredibly selfish. Full stop. There's not a lot to this story, I don't think. The assumption that your invitation should be indefinite with no communication is ridiculous, and it's very self-centered. And it's not something that, it's not like they invited B and B said yes, and then they invited somebody else and said, sorry, I changed my mind. That would be rude. But they invited somebody who did not respond, did not communicate, and then by the time they did, another plan had to be made. That's life. You're not owed a theoretical possible world that you had responded earlier in but didn't. Like, that's crazy. 10 minutes is a little quick, but the last minute thing, yeah, I was going to say 10 minutes is a little quick, but like, it is what it is. Like, it's already 10 p.m., you know, like the world doesn't wait for one specific person. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's an unfortunate incident, but like I said, the kid seems like she handled it just fine. I feel like what happened is the kid handled it fine and then told her mom about it. And then the mom was like, I'm sure they'll still take you, sweetie. And then got the kid excited about it. And then found out the next morning that that's not how it works. Like, you don't get a voluntold somebody that they're taking your daughter somewhere, you know? It's crazy. The daughter seems totally fine. I may be a bit of a hard ass when it comes to scheduling conflicts, because scheduling takes time and effort and energy, especially when you're trying to coordinate multiple people at the same time. So like, you don't get a lot of sympathy from me if you don't respond back. Like, it is what it is. Not the a-hole. What's wrong with all these people? Seriously, what did she expect your daughter to do? Drop everything or go alone because her daughter didn't text her back in time? Yeah, I don't really yes, it was fast, right? I'm not going to say that it wasn't like fast, but it was already late at night. You know, it is what it is. I think 20 minutes isn't a very long time to wait, especially considering it doesn't sound like you or your daughter sent anything to indicate you were rescinding the invite. At the very least, you should send a, hey, sorry, this is so last minute, I need to invite someone else. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I do think it would be reasonable to have sent a, sorry, I needed an answer quickly, you know, and I invited somebody else. That would have been nice. Not mandatory, but it would have been nice. You know, that's fine. You know, that's a lesson you can incorporate. I do usually say if I'm coordinating with people and I've like invited people and then things get full, then I'll say like, yeah, sorry, it's full. But that's not mandatory. Not the a-hole. Your daughter told B someone else took the spot. B acknowledged it and that was fine. So why did she expect to be going the next day? Yeah. Probably asked their mom for permission and was excited at the moment, that didn't bother to mention she was no longer going. Mom's just pissed because she didn't get the free day off from childcare. Okay. Reddit does tend to be very like armchair, like, actually. A better handling of this would have been to send B a text saying, since you didn't pick up the phone and it's tomorrow, I'm going to have to invite somebody else, before asking C. I agree with this. Was it perfect? No. But Tempest Fugit, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, it is what it is. Good feedback for incorporating into future situations. You know, if you invite somebody and you have to rescind the offer, you should tell them that you rescinded the offer. You know, I do think that that's common politeness, but you know, it is what it is. Am I the a-hole for spending more money on my kids than my stepkids? My husband and I both have kids, teenagers, from prior marriages. We each have our own incomes, although mine is significantly higher than his. We had one the other day where we were talking about how it is awkward when there's like multiple marriages of kids and incomes are very different. Let's see where this goes. When we first got together, we merged finances and I treated all of the kids the same. I got them into sports, got their clothes, took them on vacations, etc. I genuinely tried to treat them all as my own. As they got older, the blended family parenting dynamic got a lot harder. My husband and I would agree on budgets and financial rules, and then he wouldn't follow them and or would tell the kids not to tell me about things. If I got upset after finding out, they'd all focus on my reaction instead of the fact that he'd gone behind my back. Okay, already huge red flag for the husband. I'm going to be curious to see how this turns out when it comes to how they're treating the kids, because it's not really the kid's fault that your husband is being a dick. So that's awkward. I feel like if you're fighting your husband by proxy with his kids, that's not a great look, but again, they're disrespecting you, so. The tipping point was when my stepdaughter told me what her dad spent on her was none of my business and that he should be able to give her money whenever he wanted to. My husband didn't back me up. After that, I suggested we separate finances and financial responsibilities for our kids. He would take the lead on parenting and financial decisions for his kids, and I'd do the same for mine. If he wanted my opinion, I'd gladly give it, but I wasn't going to keep living in a dynamic where I carried the majority of the financial responsibility without any control. We figured out a split for shared expenses based on our incomes and agreed to each be responsible for our own kids' expenses. Okay, what this really tells me is that you and your husband are not working. It's not working out between you. If you can't come to an agreement on something like this, that bodes ill for your relationship in general. Like, that's what this is actually telling me. I don't think it's entirely unreasonable to have these feelings. I do think that a lot of people would respond very differently if the genders were flipped. I'm just going to say it. I think that if you had a man that had a lot more money than the wife, and the man said, I want to separate our finances back out because I want control over our kids' spending habits with my money, I think that a lot of people would be very quick to call that out. So I do want to put that caveat in there. I understand the tension that's being caused here. And I think ultimately, I think you've got a huge relationship problem, not a money problem. Like, the fact that your husband is disrespecting you is the real problem here. And I think you're just putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, to be completely honest. This tells me that there's a big red flag. If this happened, you would just try and sit down and talk about it. Well, that's the thing. Apparently they have sat down and talk about it, and to no effect, which is why I'm saying it's like a huge problem for their relationship. Financially, it's great. We don't fight about money anymore, and it's way less stressful for me. The issue is that I make considerably more than my husband. He's also more likely to spend his discretionary money on vehicles and stuff for himself, while I tend to spend more on the kids. To be clear, I haven't stopped doing stuff for his kids. I just don't feel obliged to anymore. His daughter is out of the house and wants nothing more to do with me, so I don't do anything with her. For my stepson, I still buy him clothes, help pay for his computer, take him on vacations, and match every dollar he puts into savings. If there's something I genuinely want to do for him, I'll do it happily. The difference is that for the day-to-day expenses, spending money, or other things he simply wants, he knows to ask his dad. If I contribute, it's because I want to. My stepdaughter has expressed resentment to my husband's family that it's unfair that my kids are spoiled and get things handed to them that she had to pay for herself. It's created some family issues where they talk about me behind my back and exclude me from the family events now because they think I'm unfair. I don't stop my husband from spending more on her, so I don't control his money or even see his bank account or bills. We simply have different priorities with our discretionary income. Am I the a-hole for sticking to what we agreed on, even though it means my kids get more? This is actually like shockingly complicated. Sounds like the OP is actually being pretty reasonable in practice. She's bearing the lead on why her kids get more. It's because the dad is selfish. Yeah, it's really complicated, right? Because I guess it somewhat depends on how old the kids were when they got married. Because I do feel like if you are marrying somebody that has like sub 10-year-olds, I think that you should be trying to step up as a parent for them and not just somebody that's married to their parent. And with that comes including them. And it sounds to me like she got mad at her husband for the financial decisions he was making and stepped away from the kids. And she's clearly like somewhat involved with the stepson, but the way that she's framing it with the stepdaughter does raise a bit of a red flag for me. However, I think this all stems from a combination of their relationship, and I'm not putting their relationship problems on her. This is kind of a dual compatibility problem. It's a big problem, and I think a lot of people just like brush things like this aside because they don't want to face having a difficult conversation about it. And I feel like the answer is kind of the a-hole, but also husband is more the a-hole. You know what I mean? I feel like this is a bad situation and you've kind of washed your hands of the stepkids. But if you've been their stepmother for like, say, a decade, and I don't know how long she's been the stepmother, right? If she's been the stepmother for like 2 years, this is a very different story than if she's been the stepmother for like 8 or 10 years. But it kind of sounds like she's distancing herself from the children that she's raising in her household that are his children. And I don't like that. But I do understand that like also the husband is very like he's acting in bad faith and the husband is spending money in a way that is problematic for the wife, and the wife is the one that's earning the majority of the money. And the fact that he is going behind her back and talking trash about her and lying to her and like turning his kids against her makes the husband the way bigger a-hole. Does that make sense? I think it's difficult. The stepson shouldn't be in the parents' crossfire. Yes. Yeah. So like that's where it's really complicated because we are only seeing her side of it. And there's some like yellow flags from her, but there's a bunch of red flags from him, right? Are you the a-hole for honoring the agreement you made? No. No. That part's fine, I guess, but your husband's the a-hole. Like, especially the part about like, he spends his money on himself and I spend my money on my kids. And then sometimes on his kids also is like, yeah, dog. Husband is definitely the a-hole and wife is like kind of the in denial a-hole. It's hard to continue to be perfect in the face of so much unfairness against you. Yeah, it's tough. This is a really tough one. This is a difficult situation. Yikes. Not the a-hole, but why are you still in this marriage? Yes. Thank you. It's a husband problem. The fact that he didn't back you up or let his daughter disrespect you is how the situation happened. Oh no, it's the consequences of my own actions. That's really the only thing happening here from the daughter's point of view. She was very happy with unfair treatment when it benefited her. Of course, she's bad-mouthing you. She's no longer the person getting the preferential treatment and she can't bully you. I don't know that I agree exactly with that take. Not the a-hole for your question, but there are cracks in your marriage that get bigger and worse. He doesn't support you or stick up for you. Are you okay with that in the long term? Yeah. Not the a-hole. What her dad spends on her or doesn't spend on her is none of your business, according to your stepdaughter. Yeah, stepdaughter's definitely getting a bit of a taste of her own medicine when she's like, it's none of your business what dad does. And it's like, okay, well, then it's not. You know? Then it's not. Am I the a-hole for threatening to quit my best friend's bridal party if I'm not made the maid of honor? Kinda. I don't know. I think that's ultimately not your decision, and quitting because you're like upset about the amount of work you're doing is like one thing, but it's not okay. Anyway, my female 27 best friend, female 28, is getting married. Yay. We've been best friends since 7th grade, and she was the maid of honor my wedding a few years back. When she got engaged, I assumed I was going to be her maid of honor, but she told me that instead she wants her brother to be man of honor. I was a tiny bit offended, but okay. I figured I'd get to spend less money and effort. No arguments there. Then I found out that she still expects me to do all of the maid of honor duties. I'm throwing the bachelorette party. I'm helping buy, or DIY decor. I am the point person for questions and problems on the wedding day. Her excuse as to why her brother can't do this, he's such a young guy, I can't count on him. When I pointed out that he's older than my husband, she just brushed me off. I got mad. I told her that if I'm doing all of the maid of honor work, I want the maid of honor title or else I'll walk. Maybe I'm vain for wanting the title, but I do. Am I the a-hole? Right. So it ultimately comes down to the work that's being expected of you as a bridesmaid. I think I wouldn't be framing it as I want the title if I'm doing the work. I think it would be like, hey, listen, this is too much work for me to do. We need to find something to do. I think that you're kind of framing it in an a-holy way. You're right that like he's an adult man. He can do that. I think you should probably just do it together. You know, I don't know. I have a hard time caring about this one. It's like, I think honestly that a lot of these things should be done by the party in general. You know what I mean? Not just one person. So I think that's really like the real problem here. If you're doing extra work for something like this, you should be recognized for it. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm saying that like it's unreasonable to expect her friend to do all of the work. It's more like, I don't know. I feel like this work should be being distributed and not just all on one person's shoes in the first place. You know what I mean? She's framing it as the a-hole. Yeah, I think the framing is bad. I think it's totally reasonable to say like, I don't want to do all that work. You know what I mean? Especially not if I'm not the maid of honor. Full stop. Just say that. You know, just say that. Don't make it like an ultimatum. Just be like, I'm not going to do it. She's not maid of honor, then the brother should do the maid of honor things. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I do think wedding things are like kind of odd. Like for our wedding, we didn't really do it that like, let me read through this list of things that she was talking about. Expects me to do the duties like the bachelorette party, buy or DIY the decor, point person for questions and problems on the wedding day. Yeah, so point person for questions and problems, that could be literally anybody. That could be the brother. For us, we didn't have our maid of honor do the decor. So maybe that's part of it, is that like my wife and I did that ourselves. Like we found the people and we decided how we wanted our wedding to look and like who to do it with and who to make it. I think most people that I know are doing most of those duties as the bride and groom, not offloading it to them. The only one that's in here that's like more maid of honor or bachelor is, or man of honor, so to speak, is the bachelor and bachelorette party. And that part I do think is a little bit more valid. Like if you want to do like a bachelorette party with the girls and you don't want to invite the brother because it's your brother and that's weird. Like if you know what I mean, that part, that's a little bit more like, okay, listen, I don't want my brother to plan my like bachelorette party. Like I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that passing to your best friend or whatever. But again, you can probably be part of that also. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like my bachelor party was just us playing poker. And then like we had a bachelorette party where we went go-karting with all like both parties the next day. So like maybe I'm just like, maybe I'm too woke that we did the work ourselves. I don't know. Like, I guess in our group of friends, right, in one of our friends' weddings, the like, there was a man of honor. It wasn't a relative, but like, it was a more male heavy group. There weren't that many women in the party in general. So we had like, basically there was the groomsmen side of the aisle that had 3 guys. And then there was the bridesmaid side of the aisle that had 1 woman and 2 guys. So like, maybe, I don't know, maybe my wedding experiences are just like very different from the quote unquote normal expected wedding like standards. You know what I mean? I don't know. Not the a-hole, but also I feel like this is just like have an adult conversation. I don't know. Just quit the bridal party. Yeah, that's more. Yeah, that's fair. Not the a-hole. If brother gets the man of honor, you can do the man of honor stuff. She can't expect that from you. Sure, I suppose. Yeah, again, we just like didn't offload much of this stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know. It is weird. It is weird that she's like infantilizing him. Like, he's so young, he doesn't know what he's doing. And it's like, dude, he's an adult. That part's weird. That part's weird. Are you willing to throw away the friendship over this? Because if you walk, that's probably the end. Yeah. It's close. I would have gone either way. Instead of quitting the bridesmaid position, refused to contribute beyond that position. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Weddings are weird. Weddings are weird and people have a lot of strong feelings about them. And our wedding was incredibly casual. Like we were the most calm, collected people at a wedding. It was remarked on by our minister as well as like the people that we worked with for like decorations and stuff. Like we were so chill about it that like these responsibilities fell to us in the first place. So I don't know. It's hard for me to comment on. It's a weird situation. I will grant that. It's a weird situation that she wants him to have this position, but like not be trusted with it. So I do agree that that's strange, I guess. But I also think it's strange to offload all that responsibility to one person. That's just like not how I understood things were done. Am I the a-hole for using my own deck even though it annoys my neighbor? I live in a sort of weird apartment complex and my deck sits kitty corner to my neighbor's. We're separated by 2 fences. She is a private lady and is grumpy, complains about everything. But I'm always friendly and say hello, and I've never had a personal issue with her. I love my deck. It's in the sun with partial shade from a tree. I spend all my time out there when I can. If I come out and she is out on hers, she'll immediately get up and go inside. She won't come back until I go in. All I do here is read or do a crossword and sit. No music, no talking, no videos, nothing. Maybe I'll have a convo with my husband if he comes outside. I don't smoke or drink. Today I was outside from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Throughout that time, she poked her head out multiple times. Each time I smiled and waved and said hi, and she just went back in without acknowledging me. I'm thinking just my presence annoys her, and sometimes I feel bad, but then I remind myself it is my own space. She has her own space, and I'm not actually stopping her from using it. She's choosing to go in anytime I come out. Am I the a-hole for using it, even though it clearly annoys her for no apparent reason? Not the a-hole. There's literally nothing to this story. Your neighbor is antisocial, like not just unsocial, but literally antisocial to the point that like if a person exists in their vicinity, they can't use their deck. They should live out in the middle of the woods on a mountain or something. Like if that's what you gotta be, you are not the a-hole. I was expecting like nude sunbathing or something, you know, from the title of this. I was expecting that she was saying like, am I the a-hole for nude sunbathing on my own deck and my neighbor can see it and doesn't like it? That would be a little more complicated. But if it's just literally I go out and read and she doesn't like it, I'm like, brother, your neighbor's got a problem and it's not you, okay? Not the a-hole. There's really nothing to discuss about this. Like, you're not doing anything disruptive. Again, if it was like, yes, I play loud music, yeah, that might be kind of annoying eventually, you know? But like, if it really bothers the other lady so much, she can put up taller trees or fence or whatever. Neighbor should build a taller fence. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, if she can't handle it, she can put in a taller fence. She can put in privacy screens. She can put in some like tall bushes or something. You know, we've got a massive laurel in our backyard because it just grows like insano, but it's a great privacy screen. Sounds like the old lady hasn't expressed what the issue is, so OP can't fix the problem if they don't know what it is. I mean, I think the problem is really that the old lady probably doesn't like the OP. I think that OP is actually correct, that the old lady doesn't like her. And so her very presence causes annoyance to this other person. That's tough. Like, you have a right to exist on your own property if you're not being actively disruptive to somebody else. You know what I mean? That's just tough.